This video, I want to talk about overriding the visibility graphics of a view. Now, as you work in a Revit project, you'll start to accumulate lots of views, and hopefully you're naming them carefully so that the intent and the purpose of each view is clear. But one of the things that we typically create alternate views for is to change the way that elements are displaying. So what I'd like to do is demonstrate how we can do that. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the difference in overall behavior between large classifications of objects in Revit. So the most common type of object that we have in this model right now are model elements. And by a model element, I mean elements that refer to real life things. So we've got things like furniture and walls and doors and windows. Those are representations of actual physical objects that you would have in the space. Things like these room tags and these dimensions and this color fill legend, those are what we refer to as view-specific detailing. Those things do not exist in real life. They don't paint the room labels on the floor. They don't create the dimensions as actual objects, but they are important for communicating design intent in our Revit project. So when we talk about customizing visibility, we're actually focusing more on the model elements because the other elements, the detailing, actually tends to take care of itself because it's automatically view specific. So let me demonstrate what I mean by all of that. Let's start by making a copy of this level 1 floor plan. So I want to make some customizations to the way things display, and best practice says that rather than constantly making changes to the graphics in each view, that it's actually just a little bit easier and better to create a duplicate of the view and dedicate it to a specific purpose. So I've right-clicked level 1, and here under duplicate view, there are actually 3 options, but I'm going to focus on the first 2. So duplicate versus duplicate with detailing. If I do duplicate, I just get another view of the model from this vantage point without any of the view-specific annotation. So notice I don't have the dimensions here, I don't have the room labels, I don't have the color fill legend. If I go back to my level 1 floor plan, those items still exist, so they didn't get deleted. The better way to say it is they simply weren't copied over to the new view, level 1, copy 1. Now I'm actually going to select level 1, copy 1 and delete it. And then I'll right-click level 1 and duplicate it again, but this time I'm going to use duplicate with detailing. So again, detailing collectively refers to all of the view-specific annotation that can be part of a view. That could be text, it could be dimensions, it could be room tags, other kinds of tags, color fill legends. All of these items that we see here are considered view-specific detailing. So notice that when I did duplicate with detailing, I got a copy of all of those elements as well. Now, the next best practice recommendation we ought to follow is to rename this new view. So I'm going to call this one Presentation Plan. Now, when you do duplicate with detailing, you automatically get a copy of all of the annotation, but then you can come back and decide if there are certain pieces of that annotation that you either don't want to see or that you want to customize in some way. So for example, if I wasn't interested in having the dimensions in this view, I could simply select them and delete them. Now I want to stress that if I go back to the original level 1 floor plan, the dimensions are still right here where we left them. So each view has its own copy of the dimensions, and that's why I chose to delete them from the presentation plan. Now, contrast that to the approach I would take with model elements. Let's say that here in this presentation plan, I did not want to see any of the dining room furniture. Well, in that case, what I would want to do is hide the furniture, because if I were to delete it, I'll just select one table here and delete it, and then go back to the other floor plan. You'll notice that table is deleted here as well. So we've actually already seen this in other examples. So I'm going to do Control Z to undo the deletion of that table. So we don't want to delete model elements. What we would do instead is hide them. So let's say that I wanted to make 2 changes here to my level 1 floor plan. First of all, maybe I don't want to see the color fill in this view. And secondly, maybe I don't want to see the furniture elements in this view. So let's make both of those modifications, and both of these are going to be view-specific changes. So the first one was to turn off the color fill. So I'll come over to the Properties palette here, scroll down, locate the color scheme right here. It's currently set to Department. I'll click that button and simply set it to None and then click OK. Notice that all the color disappears, and over here it says no color scheme assigned to the view. So let's simply select that legend and delete it. Now I want to stress one more time that if I go back to the presentation plan, the legend is still here, the colors are still assigned. So these kinds of changes that I'm making are what we call view-specific changes. They only affect the current view that I'm working in. The next thing I want to do is hide the furniture. So I'm going to go to the View tab here and locate a command called Visibility Graphics. Now, if you click that button, this is actually the Visibility Graphic Overrides for Floor Plan Level 1. So reading the title of this dialog kind of emphasizes what this dialog is actually doing. So the overrides that we're about to apply only apply to the currently visible floor plan. That's the difference. So I'm going to scroll down here and locate the furniture category right here and simply uncheck it and click OK to make all the furniture disappear. So now I've got this floor plan that's a little bit cleaner and maybe more focused on just establishing the dimensions and where the wall geometry is. Maybe this is my construction plan that I'm going to give to the contractor. But then if I come back over here to the presentation plan, this one might be more focused on giving to the person who's responsible for doing the dining room layout, or maybe this is the one we want to share with the client, or it's going to be one that they use for fundraising, or whatever the purpose might be. So let's make one or two other modifications to this. Now I'm going to zoom in slightly here so we can see things a little bit better. And so let me focus on the walls in this view. Maybe I want to make those have a little bit more graphical punch to them. So I'm going to go back to Visibility Graphics. And this time it's the Visibility Graphic Overrides for the presentation plan. So it's really important that you understand the difference here, that we're modifying a different plan now. Scroll down, and if it wasn't already obvious that the furniture is displaying in this view, you can see why right here because it's still checked on in this view. But we're going to scroll past that and go down to the walls category. I'm going to select the category and notice that in all these columns, there's an override button that appears. So you can override any of these things, the projection and surface properties, the cut properties. So why don't we put a cut pattern in the thickness of the walls to make them a little bit bolder and give them a little more emphasis. So here under cut and under patterns, I'll click the override button. You've got two patterns you can override. I'm going to override the background pattern. I'll choose a solid fill pattern right here. Now that's going to come in solid black by default, which may be a little bit more overpowering than I want. So right below that, I'll go to the color and choose maybe this light gray right here. Or perhaps you want something a little more colorful. So maybe I'll do this greenish gray here. You could choose whatever color you like. So I'll click OK and then OK again. And you'll see that kind of indicated right there as an override. Now I'm going to click Apply. And you're going to see that change get applied in the background, and notice that all the walls will fill in now with that greenish color. Now, if I click OK, go back to the level 1 floor plan, you can see that the walls here are unaffected. So that's just another example of how anything that we do in Visibility Graphics is limited to just that view. Now, I've done just a few simple changes here just to give you an idea of how Visibility Graphics works. The most important takeaway from this is understanding that there's a difference between model geometry and view-specific geometry. Model geometry are all the elements that represent real-life stuff like walls, doors, and furniture. And view-specific geometry are things like those room tags and the dimensions and the color fill legend. Those things are view by view, and you either add or delete those, where if you want to make a modification to the model geometry, that's when you're either going to hide it or show it or customize the way it displays using Visibility Graphics.